In this video, I'll walk you through logo animation at different skill levels, from noob to expert. It's a fun way to pick up useful techniques you've been looking for. By the end of this video, you'll pick up some super useful tricks that you've probably been searching for. You'll see how a noob makes decisions with less experience and how an expert approaches it. Most of us have probably been through these levels, but it's great to see how each step leads to expert-level animations. We'll be working with just one logo to make the differences between each skill level crystal clear. But before we dive in, make sure you've subscribed and liked the video so you don't miss any future content. We're starting at the first skill level. As a former noob, I'd look for a PNG file because I knew I needed something with a transparent background for logo animation. But at this level, the knowledge is pretty limited, and honestly, there's not much you can do with just a PNG when it comes to animation. As a noob, we have access to basic transform properties to create an animation. If we know about PNGs, we've probably also figured out that we need a background, so we'll create a rectangle for that. From here, it's pretty simple. Add 2 keyframes for scale and transition, going from 0 to 100. With limited knowledge, the first thing that usually comes to mind is scale and transition. At this point, it's barely an animation, but hey, this is how we all start, right? At the second skill level, we've moved up to a beginner. As beginners, we've probably figured out that breaking down the logo will give us a better result. But with limited knowledge, we might still open a PNG file in Photoshop, separating just 2 basic elements of the logo. After that, we'd open the PSD file as a composition in After Effects, and now we've got 2 elements to work with. At this stage, we'd likely know about easing keyframes by pressing F9 to make the animation smoother. We would probably also know about fixing the anchor point by pressing Y for each layer to ensure our animations rotate and move correctly. With this knowledge, we could make the main element of the logo appear using rotation and position properties. We'd add 2 keyframes for rotation to give it a spin, and then position keyframes to move it from left to right. After easing those keyframes, we'd make the crown or second element follow along using position keyframes as well. Now, here's how you do it. Fix the anchor point for the second element as well, and then press P for position properties. Add 2 keyframes, one for the initial position and another for the start position, moving it from up to the initial spot. Make sure to put the initial position keyframe first, then add the start keyframe. After that, ease the keyframes and the animation is done. The next level would work with vector files instead. But let me clarify one thing first. There's nothing wrong with using PNG files and creating animations with masks. It can still be effective. However, I'm focusing on making things as simple as possible for better understanding. So, let's break down the SVG file for this level using Adobe Illustrator. At the Pro level, we know how to separate files for animating each element effectively. First, we'll ungroup the layers by right-clicking. Next, we need each component on its own layer. To do this, we'll use the Selection tool by pressing V to choose a shape. Then, we cut it by pressing Ctrl plus X, creating a new layer, and pasting it in place with Ctrl plus Shift plus V. Now hide the layers by clicking the eye icon to keep our workspace clean. It's a bit repetitive, but this sets the foundation for pro-level animations. Finally, be sure to rename the layers. This little step will save you a lot of time, making it easier to find in After Effects. Now, at the Pro level, we can work with shapes, making our skill set even more flexible. Creating shapes from these layers is where we begin to enhance our animations and take them to the next level. Fixing anchor points at the beginning will help us avoid any confusion later in the process. Next, we'll move the icon layers forward in the timeline, since they'll appear last in the animation. Let's also adjust the duration of the logo animation to 3 seconds for a smoother reveal. We'll need the crown layer later, so let's move that one forward in the timeline as well. Now, let's start by focusing on animating the blue circle. Press G to select the pen tool and draw a stroke over the circle, ensuring it overlaps perfectly. Next, add trim path properties and set the end values from 0 to 100. At this level, we're familiar with the graph editor, so let's adjust the curves for a slower start, acceleration in the middle, and deceleration towards the end. Finally, choose a matte for the animated layer and pre-compose these 2 layers to keep everything organized. We'll begin by fixing the anchor point and adjusting the rotation property, just like we did at the beginner level. Then, we'll add 2 keyframes, one for the ending position and another set to 180 degrees to create that smooth spinning motion. Let's check out how it looks. We'll use the same technique for the second blue circle, and once that's done, our first element will be complete. After that, let's pre-compose this layer as well and move it further in the timeline so we can start working with the yellow circle. Cut the layer in the timeline. Then set 2 position keyframes to make the yellow circle move to its initial position from the right side. Adjust the graph editor for smooth motion and fix the starting time of the layer in the timeline. Next, create an ellipse. Use the eyedropper tool to match the yellow color with the logo elements, adjust its size and position accordingly. Now, let's animate the circle. Set its initial position as the ending keyframe, then move it up to create the starting position. Press G for the pen tool and adjust the motion line curves to give it a smooth path. After that, fix the graph editor, and just like that, our circle has its first motion. Move this keyframe forward in the timeline and add one more to create a new position. Then, move the ellipse to the middle to give it a circular motion. Adjust the motion paths accordingly, and fix the graph editor for a smooth flow. Let's leave it here for now and move on to animating the crown. Start by adding a position keyframe and setting the ending position by moving the crown further along. Next, set the start position by moving the crown up to create a falling effect. Then, just like we did with the ellipse animation, select the pen tool and adjust the motion line for a smoother path. Place the timeline indicator in the middle of the crown layer and move the crown element slightly down to create the overshoot effect. This will give the animation that extra bounce. Adjust the graph editor and fix the overshoot curve. Double-click the curve point to adjust velocity. Select Continuous and let's see how it looks. Now let's animate the icons to appear with the crown's impact. Set up 3 keyframes for the scale properties, similar to the crown's movement. 1 for the start, 1 for the overshoot, and 1 for the end. Adjust the scale values from 0 to 110, and then set it to 100 for the final state. Offset the icon layers for that nice staggered effect. Since the yellow icon doesn't need any additional animation, we can delete the keyframe. Once everything is in place, pre-compose all the circle layers, and we're all set. Now let's add an impact to the pre-composed circle layer using the same position properties. We'll need 3 keyframes. The start and end positions should stay the same, while the middle keyframe will be moved downward to match the crown's impact. This will give the circle layer a nice bounce effect. Now we can finalize the ellipse motion by adding 1 more position keyframe. Let's make the ellipse match the scaling as it moves. Add 2 scale keyframes from 0 to 100 and adjust the timing to match the movement in the timeline. It also doesn't need an extra keyframe, so let's delete that scale keyframe and change the motion path 1 more time. After completing all the necessary steps, let's take a moment to check how everything looks. Nice and smooth. Finally, we've reached the expert level, which may sound scary, but is actually easier than it seems. Breaking down a logo isn't just useful for animations. It also helps when creating branding assets, like patterns from logo components. You can use these patterns in packaging designs for your portfolio. Now, if creating mockups sounds challenging, it is okay. You don't need to learn Blender for this. Pacdora offers almost 5,000 packaging templates, die lines, and mockups. You can easily create 3D mockups using the Pacdora website in just a few simple steps. The website is rich with options, making it easy to find exactly what you need for specific projects. Head over to Pacdora's website and browse through the wide range of mockups they offer in different categories. The Tools section lets you generate 3D mockups, provides a box template maker, and even includes a design assistant where you can create barcodes or QR codes in different formats. You can create custom boxes, bottles, food packaging, cans, and even t-shirts. Plus, their free 3D modeling software allows you to model a custom 3D scene online, giving you full creative control. Now, pick your favorite and let's start editing. First, click Download Die Line to grab the template we'll be working on. Open the downloaded die line in Illustrator, add your design, and then save it. Die line file help you understand packaging design principles and make the process easier than it seems. Next, upload the edited die line back to Pacdora, and your 3D mockup is ready. You can export it in any format you need or render the mockup for your next project. Let's be honest, some portfolios can feel out of reach if you don't have 3D software knowledge, especially when it comes to showcasing packaging or product designs in a dynamic way. However, Pacdora makes this much easier by offering animated video mockups. These can really elevate your projects, helping them stand out from the crowd. With Pacdora's animated mockups, you can present your designs in a more interactive and engaging way, something that would definitely take more time and effort in traditional 3D software. This feature allows you to bring your portfolio to life and impress potential clients or employers without needing extensive technical skills. Some advanced features are available with a 20% discount, so don't forget to use the promo code to take advantage of it. Now, let's jump back to the expert level. The key difference at the expert level is that we focus on generating creative ideas and then execute them using the skills we've mastered from all the previous levels. At this stage, we should break down the logo even more thoroughly. In Illustrator, select the pen tool and connect the points to form the shapes of the logo. Then, use the Shape Builder tool to refine and recreate the logo elements. Make sure to place each element on its own individual layer so they're all set and ready for animation. At the expert level, we'll take things up a notch by using the same matte, revealing technique with trim paths, but this time for the more detailed parts of the logo. This adds a refined and professional touch to the overall animation. Once the individual elements are revealed, we'll pre-compose them into a single layer. From there, we can apply a rotation to give the entire logo a smooth, spinning motion. This technique helps the logo reveal itself in a way that feels fluid and dynamic, creating a more engaging and polished final animation. Let's see how it looks. At the expert level, we'll step things up by replacing the simple ellipse from the pro level with a football icon. This adds more meaning to the animation, especially if it's for a sports-related brand. The technique is essentially the same. We'll use position keyframes and adjusting graph editor accordingly. But now we're working with a more detailed and relevant shape. The main difference is that, while the ellipse gave us a clean basic shape to animate, the football icon adds complexity and makes the logo more meaningful. The falling crown and circular reveal concept are still in play, but at the expert level, we add extra detail. By using trim path with the end and offset properties, we can create subtle yet powerful details that enhance the impact when the crown falls. These small touches really bring the animation to life. To reveal the blue icon, we'll start by applying the offset paths effect. First, set an end keyframe with the amount set to 1 and then adjust the start keyframe until the shape completely disappears. After that, ease the keyframes to create a smooth transition and adjust the motion using the graph editor for a cool reveal. Now, for the morphing effect between the football and the icon, we'll use a similar approach. We'll start by revealing the shape at the beginning, then gradually make it disappear right when the morphing happens, all with the offset paths effect. This gives a seamless transition that makes the animation feel smooth and dynamic. After all these steps, let's take a look at the final result and see how it turned out. We've covered 4 different skill levels in logo animation, showing the path to improvement step by step. I'll include the vector file in the description, so feel free to download it and practice. If you like the content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.